My name is Josiah Ingalls. I'm the Executive Director of Camp Haven Sanctuary, a homeless shelter here in Cedar Creek, Texas. 3.5 years ago, when the state legislature decided that they didn't want to have a heart and they wanted to make it a crime to be too poor to afford a home, we jumped into action and turned the 10 acres that is our home into a homeless shelter. In this 3.5 years, we have funded this shelter primarily out of our own pocket. Our shelter has an 8 percentage points higher success rate than the shelters of Austin, with spending what's considered no money for the industry per person served. Our shelter not only provides housing, but it also provides hygiene, food, and clothing. And in this 3.5 years, we started funding it with our own money. And we've had some donations to us, and we appreciate that. It has helped us tremendously. We have some sustaining donors that give to us each month. And these are our angels that help provide for the people that we serve. But primarily, me and my family have funded this place out of our own resources. A year after opening the shelter, we refinanced our property in order to be able to help with the development costs and operations. Then we spent over $100,000 in more operations costs and legal fees with the red tape with the county. Here recently, we have been doing everything we can to see if we can get the county to give us more time and to see if maybe the county would fund us. And recently we had a meeting with the County Commissioner's Court, which we started that process to see if they could fund us. And they have invited us to apply for funding for their next budget cycle. But we will be out of money before the next budget cycle comes. You see, about a year ago, Dan stopped working, and he has been looking for work continuously, and he has been unable to find a job. For the past 1.5 years, I have been driving Uber to raise money to keep this shelter going, and that money goes to keep the shelter going. And that has slowed the financial bleeding and has kept us open. But with Dan not being able to work and the cost of food and everything going up, it has become harder and harder to keep the shelter open as we have been diminishing our life savings. We have been hopeful since the beginning that funding would come, and we had continuously filed for grants and every opportunity we could to be funded, and it has never happened. We always hoped that our society would see that housing the homeless was the moral and right thing to do, but it has not happened. 6 months ago, we sent letters to every single church in Bastrop County, asking them to become a sustaining donor to our shelter. Unfortunately, none of them stepped up to the plate to fund our shelter. I do not know why they haven't, but I suspect it has something to do with the fact that our shelter has always had a policy that we are a religious neutral facility and we do not allow churches to come here to proselytize or to recruit for their members. That is my belief of why the churches of our county haven't stepped up to the plate to support us and to help keep us doing what is considered God's work, to house and feed the homeless. Me and my family have sacrificed all that we can, and we will continue to sacrifice to the last dime and to the last second that we can and keep this place going. At this point, we just need to raise enough money to keep this shelter going until the next budget cycle for the county, in which we are very likely to get funded from the county. When we went before the county commissioners court, almost all of them seemed to be very supportive of our shelter and the idea of supporting our shelter financially. So all hope is not lost. So I'm reaching out to not only tell our community and the Central Texas area of the dire situation our shelter is in, but I'm also hoping that enough of you will see the value of the work that we do and be willing to help. If you are unable to financially help, there's something you can do that will cost you only your time. Share this video on every social media platform that you are able to. Push it out there. For this video can find its way to those that can financially afford to help. If some of you out there could become sustaining donors of even $25 a month, we could raise enough money to keep our shelter going, until which time we can find more long-term sustainable fundings from foundations. It has been me and my family's greatest honor and privilege to do this work. It has been our privilege to sacrifice all of our resources to house those in need. I started this journey long before this shelter was ever even a thought. My journey to this was when I was homeless myself, because I knew that pain, and I knew what that was like when it was no longer feasible for people that are too poor to afford a home to even be on the streets in Texas. And they were facing potential being in jail just for being poor. I knew what that pain was like, so we opened up our home. And now it is likely that if the shelter cannot get funded, me and my family will also lose our home. It was my hope that my daughters and my wife would never experience homelessness. But if the shelter cannot get funded, then the money I'm making from Uber can't go to our personal finances. I could redirect that funds to save our own selves from losing our place. But I cannot save ourselves from losing our own home and keep the shelter going. And every month the shelter goes on our dime and our finances is more of a risk that the thing I never wanted to happen for my wife and kids will happen. Me and my family have had many conversations about what is going to happen if we cannot get funded, and what is the likelihood of us losing our own home. And now that the bank has sent us a letter stating that they are upping our mortgage and our interest rate and our cost of our homeowners insurance is going up, and the cost of the land taxes has tremendously gone up, we are at risk of losing it all. But despite it all, if I could do it all over again, knowing that I've now put my family at a high risk of becoming homeless ourselves, I would do it all over again. And I know without a doubt, my wife and my kids and Dan, we would do it again. because the lives we have changed, and those we've helped, and those that we have served, was worth every cent and every sacrifice. And to the Central Texas community and Bastrop County, I owe an apology. It was my job, and is my job as the executive director of this shelter, to have kept it going, and to have acquired the funding, and to have made it successful. And I am failing at this moment, and for that I am sorry. And if our shelter closes, then I have failed you, our community, and to those that are the most vulnerable of our community. But I have done my best, and I have put it all on the line. It was my dream, after I started this shelter, to create the most successful shelter in America. And in some ways, we have done that. We have created a success rate with so little money that has never been heard of before. We have succeeded in ways others have not. We were the first shelter in the world to go open source as an attempt to teach others how to create shelters. And our model works. Our success rate shows that the model works. The only part about our model that hasn't worked is that we have been unable to get funding. And part of that is because we're in Texas. I'm originally from Maine. And Maine doesn't do much better with its homeless. But in comparison, it does do better. It tends to be that the northern states do a little better than the southern states. And I wish it wasn't so. I know that there are millions of Texans out there that have huge hearts and that are kind and good intentions. Just our politicians just care less than the general population. If you can help our shelter, it would be much appreciated. And the people that are homeless, that are living here now in our shelter, would be most grateful as well. It has been my greatest honor. Thank you for listening to me. And thank you for your consideration. Until next time.